Hey gang, SharpShot21 here, and tonight we are working on the Afterburner tool head and the the Clockwork, excuse me. Pocket watch is the V0, the Clockwork is the V2.4/Afterburner extruder mechanism. We're going to get both of those together tonight. We're going to get the tool head, the interchangeable tool head, and the pocket watch, excuse me, the Clockwork. I'm going to do that all night. The Clockwork assembled here tonight. We're going to start with the tool head and we'll move into the Clockwork. Let me get what we need and we'll get started. First thing first, there's a lot of heat sets that have to go in this. On the cowling, for instance, there's 2 up top, 2 on the bottom. Getting into the Clockwork, on the back piece, there's 1 here. On the intermediary piece, there's 2 right there. On the front piece, there's 2. Wait a minute. On the front of the back of the Clockwork, there's 2 here and 1 on the side. I think there's 2 that go in here. There are a lot of heat certs, so we're going to start with those and then get back to it. Oh, on the slide piece on the Clockwork, the tensioner, there's 1. I mean, they're all over the place on this, so we've got to get them all out of the way first, and then we'll start putting pieces together. No, actually, those aren't deep enough to get a screw insert, so those don't get a screw. I think that's all of them. Let me clean those up and then we'll start putting pieces together. I'm using the Mosquito hot end. So it's a little different than if you're using the E3D V6 or the Slice Mosquito. I'm using the Triangle Labs Dragon hot end standard flow, so I'm not using the high flow. You got the back half, you got the front half. You want to install this with the heat block towards the back. So for the Mosquito, or the Dragon, there are 4 screws that come in the top, and we need to get all 4 of those into the hot end here. They go through 4 screw holes on the top of each of the sections. We also need 2 M3x16s and a couple M3x40s. guess I'm missing my M3 by 40s. I'll see if I can find them. If not, I've got a couple of these as sockets. We will get the M3 by 16s. Secured. And then we'll slot in these last two. So there's supposed to be two M3 by 40s in there. Let me see if I can find those. Okay, I don't have them, so I'm gonna have to order them. I'm gonna put the cover back on this. And we're gonna stick them that over there. And we're gonna start on the Clockwork. I have the BMG parts. There is this, which is the drive gear catch. The drive gear catch is, or rather the idle gear catch. There are now on this, there's one side with a recessed cut and one side without the recessed cut. This is for the drive gears. On this, so that drops in. We then grab the tension adjuster, the thumb screw, for this spring on, little spacer, I'm going to actually drill this out a little bit, so I'll be back when that's done. Drilled that out now so it actually floats. You want that so that there's some tension. That is all we need there. Next is going to be, we need to grab the pancake stepper, which is right here. As for the next piece, we need to be able to mount the drive, the shafts, the bearings, but it all mounts to this. And to mount that, we need an M3 by 8 drop. And actually, I want these to come out the side. I don't want them to come out the bottom. I want it to come out the side closest to the cover. And we want to take the shaft and the bearings for it. Oops. We need to do a little cleanup on this lip. Got the bearing race cleaned up and the bearing installed. Now that that's in place, we need to install the little teensy drive gear. All right, we got to get that drive gear in. Okay. This little screw gets some Loctite. Just a little dab will do. Make sure that that go screw gets onto the flat on the drive motor. You then have this drive gear with a grub screw on it as well. And that goes on the flat on that shaft. Now, I'm not going to Loctite that one just yet, so I want to get the rest of this assembled, just to make sure I have the height correct. This clamshell goes over top. We we do need to clean this one up as well. So. I'm going to take some M3 by 30s, which I keep misplacing. We have 3 of these. They go in here, here, and here. Use all of these screws to suck this down onto that top bearing. Alright. At this point, we need to slot this into its retention wall. I know there's a way that this goes in there. I'm just going to take it off and do it. There it is. And then this piece drops down on top. Ah, the screw goes there. So I realized I made a mistake here. I haven't actually assembled this, and you kind of need to before you can put it in there. So we're going to fix that. I've got the 40 watt 24 volt heaters. I just bought a pack of them off of Amazon, and I've got the thermistor, which is the 3950K from Triangle Labs. And no, I don't have any thermal compound up here. But I don't actually think you need it for this one. I gotta take it apart later. I'll take it apart later. Now, one thing to note. There are zip tie pulls on this side of it. So you want to leave the tails for the heater cartridge and the thermistor coming out so that they will go up the appropriate channels. Just slide the cartridges in. Dope. Come back when I've got these in. Alright, got both of those in. Something that's kind of handy to have is one of these hot end wrenches. Picked this one up off of Amazon. I think it was like 12 or 13 bucks. I'll put a link in the description. It's got a spacing for a 20 mil wide and a 23 mil wide heater block. And all you do is you slot it down over the heater block. It gives you clearance to tighten your nozzles, but it's also handy for getting set screws and stuff because it's going to keep it from twisting. So just thought I'd knock that out. So that's a helpful thing. Now, with the hot end wires where they're supposed to be, we can slot this up into the heater block, or the hot end assembly. So I'm going to get these screws back in, and we'll go from there. So we get to cable management and getting this installed. basically you run these up this way, tie them off with zip ties, and then they can get terminated in a connector so that this whole hot end block is removable. So we'll set this off to the side. Next step in the Clockwork and toolhead is to do the cooling fans. Which, one of them is a blower. I've already pulled off the top shroud for this style. It's just held on by 4 little clips, pops out. Other thing that you gotta do is pull the wires out from this clip. Otherwise, you're gonna crimp them and it's not gonna be good. So this blower just slots right in like that. And then there's a front piece, which clips right over top. And then we're going to want to undo the wires from the clip on this one as well. And I'm going to orient these pretty much straight up. And then this gets just pushed in as well. Now this blue top piece connects to this black bottom piece. And then there's a 175mm hole going through the side here, which you take a piece of filament and you run it through the hole. So I'm going to snip off a couple pieces of filament, much longer than what is actually required. And I'm just going to slide it through everything here. Okay, so it runs through. To got the piece of filament run through, and then I've got a pair of these side cutters, and I'm just going to trim it off as flush as I can get with the front, and then that will act as our hinge, so that this will pop up and we can get to the tool head. And then it flips back down, and that's our tool head cooling fan. We clip these two together. And then there is a wire guide right here. For capturing the wires and running them out of the side here. We are now at the point where we can mount the Clockwork to the cooling fan assembly. And we do that with two M3x20s. Excuse me, that mounts the tool head to the carriage of the M3x20s. But we need some M3x16s. M3x16s go up here. And then some M3x30s. These M3x30s are used to mount the assembly here directly to the Clockwork. Couple more things before we actually get this installed on the carriage. Mainly because I think it's going to be easier to do it once I have it installed versus right now. So one thing that needs to be done is this cable chain bracket needs to get installed here, as well as the cover for all of the wiring connectors that are part and parcel of the tool head in the carriage. So I've got to get the hot end heating up, and then it is 3 heat sets for this tool cover and this little cover. So there's 2 different sides. There's one with the angle and there's one without. The angle goes to the bottom, so the heat sets go in from the top. Go. Now, I need a Phillips head and a big one, so let me grab my toolbox and we'll try that. Alright, grab a couple screwdrivers. So what we need to do is take these two screws off. One of these has a hole, one of them has a clip. And then this goes on top. And it goes in with two more M3 by 20s. One thing you want to do is make sure that you don't cinch these down too much, because you do want this to be able to slide under and kind of catch. So you don't want to bend the ear down too far that you can't get it in and out. Now that that's done, there's one more thing we need to do for the hot end, but we'll do that once we get right at the end here and mount everything up. I'm going to leave the hot end off. But what we need to do is take a piece of Bowden tube, stuff it down in there, and then cut it proud by a margin so that it can run up into the base here and guide everything back down so that there's a constrained filament path from the end of the extruder into the constrained part of the heat break. Not difficult to do, just need to know you need to do it. But we'll do that later. One last thing. We need an M3 by 8. That holds this carriage closed, or this cover closed. I'm just going to put that in for the moment. Now, when this is mounted, you flip this up. I'll take this and it will slot up. So come in from the bottom, it'll slot up around the two bolts that I'll show you in a minute. lock it in place, close this cover, and then there are two M3x12s, which are right here. They run down through. And that will hold everything together like that. But I'm going to wait to put this on until we do all the belting. So I'm getting ready to mount the tool head, and it is time to cut the PTFE tube. It comes with, if you buy it from Triangle Lab, it comes with this little slicer, which is actually quite handy. Now, there's a hole up here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there is a hole that this PTFE needs to go in. It only needs to go down only about 3 millimeters. And it needs to go in here. A fair bit. And it's going to have to get, this is going to have to come apart a little bit so it can actually go down, because it does get clamped in the top here. So first step is to trim this off flush. Now I've trimmed it off square, and that end will go down into there. Got my set of micrometers, or calipers, not micrometers. It wants to go down about down about 7. Seven mil down. So it needs to come up out of here 7 mil. So the cut end. Goes down in. So that goes in there. Give me a second to trim this up and we'll call it good. So just a little teeny tiny piece of stick up is all you need. 7 mil approximately. The hole is approximately 7 millimeter. When this gets mounted to the carriage and you want to do a swap for your hot end comes up from the bottom, slots in place, locks in, run your 2 screws into the carriage, run your 2 fan screws into the heat sights, all done. Oh, excuse me. So slot this up in, run your 2 screws into the carriage, your 2 screws from your fan into here, that locks it all together. We're all set and ready to go. Time to put this on. Let me go grab the printer. Okay. I want to make sure that we get our sensor cable out of the way. In fact, I'm maybe going to drop it over here. I believe the first piece is actually tool head. Oop. And I have accidentally put the hot end in backwards, it seems. It seems that we want the long end of the block to the front, otherwise it interferes with the sensor. So let me fix that. Alright. Now mounting the clockwork. I'm going to pop this off so it's out of the way for the moment. And then there's 2 more screw holes up top. We take 2 M3 by 20s for these. And we've run them down through. And there are 2 little notches, so we got to be careful about getting everything lined up just right. And I need to pop this off. So that slots down on top. That is a little tight. That's on. We take the tool head, slide the tool head up in, screw down the tool head, close the fan cover, and screw down the fan cover. That is tool head mounted. That's thanks for tuning in. This was mounting, or the tool head construction and mounting. Hope you found this helpful. Hope you found it useful. I'm sorry if things appear a little out of order, but that's just how this needed to go together, in my opinion. So hopefully we'll see you guys next time, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Sharps out.
Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps me out, and it lets you know when I put something new up. New videos will be going up on Tuesdays or Thursdays at 8 a.m. Eastern. And if I do decide to do live streams, I will try to give 24 hours notice. So hit the subscribe button on the channel, and you'll be notified when I post that stuff too. Hope to see you next time. Sharps out.